Alrighty. Welcome back, everyone, to yet another Moonshire Monday, the weekly stream that I do where I just show off any progress or we chat about whatever's going on. This is Shalakane. I'm working on this game called Moonshire. You can check it out on Steam. And we got a few people in chat already. We got Allfather, we got Pavel. Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. In this stream, or I should say, yesterday evening, I was working on this new area. Oh, it's really dark. So I was working on this new area. We got Hesa, we got Red Ore. Welcome. Let me check out. We got Jaggy Man on Twitch. Thank you so much for joining. So this thing that I was working on specifically is this little new area. It's a cave area. And when you walk into this area, it's gonna spawn some of these new enemies. Man, it's just so dark. Because I wanted a cave, but it's really, really dark. I think it would be better if I have some more lights. My game looks so cool. Thank you, appreciate that. We got McDurry, we got Andy, Falco. Again, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate that. I really am so excited to get this new version of the game out because it's genuinely much better than the current Steam version. So for anyone that's not aware, this game called Moonshire that I'm working on, it is on Steam. You can check it out on Steam. There's a free demo as well, but it is a little outdated compared to what I'm showing off on stream here. There's been so many changes, so many updates. I'm so excited to get this out, but it's one of those things where the whole thing is getting recreated, and it wasn't too feasible for me to put out like incremental updates for this. It's like a complete overworld rehaul, and it's just a lot. Baked Heart, welcome in. Thank you. We got Codename, Falco. Thank you again. So one thing that I was working on are these torches. So there's this little I guess I should clarify what I reworked. So oh, you said everything about this game's UI to movement is smooth. Appreciate that. Yeah, I put a lot of work into every little aspect of it. But I mean, it also took forever because I've been working on this game for so long. So the torch is what I've been kind of working on. Where, and this has always been a feature where if you swim in water, the torch gets extinguished. But what I haven't ever really worked on is like making this stick useful where you can relight it. And like if I warp to some place that has some fire, like surface D or surface C4, if I walk near any fire source now, even this character's little fire, it'll light my torch. I think that's kind of cool. And it's like it's kind of like a puzzle almost, because you can use the torch to clear out these vines, and that's the only way to clear them. But also, if you go in water, then it puts your torch out, and that's kind of like the puzzle of this upcoming area. Is the torch is now out, and if I go over here, oh, I didn't put the water in yet. If I go over here, I won't be able to burn these vines because I don't have fire anymore. So this kind of be like a little like semi-puzzle where you have to find a fire source or find a way to somehow get some kind of fire weapon to get through this vine stuff here. There's gonna be more future bosses. There's gonna be a lot, or I shouldn't say there's gonna be a lot, but there are gonna be more. In the demo, there are 4 total, and they're good. I do like all the bosses. All the bosses that are in the demo will be in this updated version, but at the same time, it's there's just a lot of reworks, I'm saying. I think that this new version that I post will have fewer bosses that are in the current demo, but once I get farther along in development, I'm gonna put them back and make them better. Baked Heart, don't mind me just borrowing some fire throw. Exactly. That's exactly what I was like. And part of the challenge is I wanted to make it so every fire source works with this. So if I warp over to, let's say, surface C2, there's a campfire over here, and it just, like, all the fire sources work the same way. If you walk near any fire source, it's going to light the torch, and I think that's very cool, very important. It will make for some fun puzzles, I think. Jaggy Man says, I got a tech question. I noticed how good the weapons rotate without getting pixel jaggies. How do you accomplish that? Are all the sprites up-res to give you the resolution you rotate them? Excuse me. Let me repeat that. Are all the sprites up-resed to give you the resolution to rotate them? That's a great question. And the answer is yes. Essentially, yes. Every sprite in this game is upscaled in some way or another, because if this game was just like look at this character. It's 1 pixel. You can see the individual pixels I'm saying, but my computer screen is much higher res. So in order for this character or all these sprites really to be fitting the screen size, it does have to be upscaled. And the way rotation works is, yeah, it's just upscaled in a way where rotating it doesn't cause the jaggies. Because if I pull up, let's say a sprite, and let's just pull up any random sprite, like this one. So this is the new enemy I was talking about. I mean, it's an enemy that's in the game right now. But what Jaggyman was saying is that if you just rotate the sprite on a pixel by pixel basis, it's going to rotate in a very poor way. Because watch this. Like now it doesn't even look like an enemy anymore. It just looks like a complete mess. And but in the game, plenty of sprites in my game are rotated, like you were saying, the weapons. And if I'm wielding the greatsword, for example, you can see that the sprite is rotated. And I have gotten complaints that say this looks weird, and fair, because that means that this game isn't like a true pixel art game. Pippa, welcome in. Crown, thank you so much for joining. I need to work on stuttering. I speak way too fast, and I just get super messed up, so I need to chill a bit. TK4TK, welcome. Drink water. Thank you, Allfather. Appreciate that. Why don't you have the Twitch link in the description of the stream on YouTube? Should I do that? Do you guys think I should put the Twitch stream link on YouTube? I could do that. Yes. Oh, anyway, to answer what I was talking about with the rotating sprites before I move on, I'm gonna actually pull up that sprite. It's under items. I can't find where my oh, here they are. I couldn't find my weapons. So this is the greatsword, and we saw in game that the sprite can be rotated to be very clean. I know it's not allowed from Twitch to YouTube, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to cross-reference them. There's not really much of a point to it. Which engine did you use for this game? It's called Love 2D. So again, to demonstrate the thing, just 100, 100, and if you rotate the sprite on a pixel by pixel basis, again, it is going to be really jagged. Like, look at that. Can you imagine if this was the sprite that's used here? Yeah, so the trick is that the sprite image isn't being rotated. Like, I'm not making a new sprite of the greatsword that's rotated. Instead, the sprite is the clean, straight version, and then the engine rotates the whole image. And since it's like not true pixels, like if I take this right here, I think that I can like zoom in and show. It's very, very hard to see, but you can see that there's like little pixel artifacts along the edges. This is not a perfect rotation. This is the engine doing its best to just make it look good, and it totally works, because when this is small, it looks great. You can't see any of those little artifacts, but like they are there. Like if you zoom in on this image, you can see that any of the rotated sprites, oh, even, whoops, you can kind of see it on this little blade of grass too, because all these blades of grass are rotating, and in the image you can kind of see some like pixel rotated artifacts, but it's so minor because it's upscaled. So to answer your question again, if I took this greatsword and let's bump up the size of this sprite by 1000%. So this is a very high res sword now. 1 pixel is actually worth like I don't know, 10 by 10 pixels. And now if I rotate it, It's probably gonna look a lot better. It does. So yeah, the answer to making it rotate properly is, yeah, the whole game is upscaled, and upscaled rotating pixel art sprites just look better rotated compared to strict pixel by pixel. It must be true pixel art to make it work. Choppy pixel art game work best for aesthetics. Learn anti-alias for smoother move. Yeah, that's all about the scaling. So another thing I think I can show. Where would this happen? Game start. How many bosses have you planned for the final game? Really? So this updated version of the game is meant to condense everything. And like for years I was saying, oh, I want there to be so many bosses. I want this to be a huge game, but no. Well, like let's take a cold shower here and chill out a bit. I'm gonna have like 5 or 6 bosses, maybe like a final boss and stuff like that. But I need to keep this realistic is the problem here. So I was gonna talk about the pixel scaling. So this is what does all the magic with making the pixels scale up to be so clean. If I get rid of this line, the interpolation of the pixel scaling is going to be blurry, I think. Let's see. Oh, whoa. Whoa. This looks so... Look at the fire actually looks kind of cool. Like, the fire looks sick. It has, like, a little subtle outline. The fire looks awesome when it's scaled like this. But, yeah, this is what the game looks like when you don't interpolate the scaling of the sprites to be nearest by nearest. And that's it just looks really funny. It looks really blurry. Because when I scaled up this greatsword, I scaled it up using nearest interpolation, but I think I can. Yeah, look, I can change the interpolation method here from nearest neighbor to be let's say bilinear. And that might look different. It does. So since I changed the interpolation to be bilinear, it makes the whole thing blurry, which is what you would want on like a high-res image. Like if it was a photo of myself. Do I really want to pull up a photo of myself? All right, I'm sure I have a photo of myself somewhere. Or how about I just take a picture of my stream? This is dumb. Look at me. Wow. And then let's copy this, and I think I can just like copy it straight into this. Wow, look at me. Whoa. And then let's scale up. And when you scale up using bilinear on an image, the blurriness isn't as noticeable. Like this doesn't look blurry at all, it just looks normal. But if I try to scale this up using, what is it, the nearest neighbor? Let's change this interpolation back to nearest neighbor. Now I'm gonna be, whoops, I didn't do it. Now I'm gonna be pixely. So let's change sprite size, 1000 by 1000, and nearest neighbor. So that's why nearest neighbor makes like upscaling images very pixely. You can see like around my irises, and my glasses are super pixely. That's because I use nearest neighbor, but changing it back to, I'm gonna change it back because I didn't take a close look at the bilinear. If I do this, it's gonna be a lot smoother. Whoa, this image is huge. Much less pixely, much less pixely. So that's a very important factor here. Defective, welcome in, or defected, excuse me. We got Cobra Kai, we got Gambit, Nada. Thank you so much for joining on both Twitch and YouTube. We really appreciate that. Try default yet? Oh, I knew I was forgetting something. You know, something that did happen is when I was streaming last week and I looked up default game engine, it gave me a copyright strike. So I went to default, or was it default? I can't remember if it was default or something else. Show features. There was I watched some video on stream last week, and it gave me a copyright notice, and I had to remove the song. What the heck? I didn't mean to do that. Oh, I accidentally copied this and then searched it. That was weird. Oh, Raylib, that's what it was. Yeah, so let's go to Raylib. Oh, there's my eyes again. Raylib. Yeah, so I watched this video, and this video had a song in the background, but the song purchasable copyright songs. And since I was playing it on stream, it's like, oh, we can't monetize your stream now. So I had to remove the song. It's kind of silly. Linear could be used for a default soft glow. Arrange it like linear outline sprite nearest main sprite. Yeah, that makes sense. There are certain things that you might want to have like an upscale in bilinear as opposed to nearest neighbor. In this game, yeah, probably, because like this is when it's scaled up by nearest neighbor. And I actually do like how the outlines on the fire look. I think I like how the fire looks in general. It's very soft. And fire isn't really meant to be sharp. So the soft look of the fire, I think, looks nice. But, like, obviously, the player is so messed up. The eyes look so strange. And there's a weird outline on all of these blades of grass that aren't supposed to be there. And, yeah, the whole game looks blurry. Except for the tiles. The tiles aren't scaled up like that for some reason. Which extensions do I use? Let's see. On VS Code, I use the Azure extensions. I use GitHub Copilot and Love2D support. So I actually don't use very many. It's only a few. That fire is nice. Yeah, thank you. The fire comes from a paid asset, actually. It comes from a paid asset for a campfire, and then I removed some of the details and just edited the fire to make it a standalone flame. But let's go back to how the game is supposed to look. Where it's pixely. Yeah, I mean, I do like actually how the soft fire looks more, but this does fit into the universe a bit more. A filter exception just for fire? Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I think I can. Let's do that. I'm gonna try it, but I am not highly confident about it, so... Okay, I know how to do it. Flame. So, in the flame file, in flame:draw, before we draw the flame anim, I'm gonna change the default filter back to default, or back to bilinear, and then right after the flame is drawn, it's gonna go back. I think this is actually gonna work. Oh. So my problem is I didn't pass a parameter in here, but I can't remember what the exact parameters are for, what is it, for this function. So by the way, if you don't know how to use a specific function, like love.graphics.set default filter, I don't know the exact parameters for this, but all you have to do is just Google it, and you'll find the Love2D wiki specifically for this function, and it tells you all the details about it. So, and this is the same for any engine, any language that you're using. If you don't know what this means, you just look it up and it tells you this sets the default scaling filters with images, canvases, and fonts. I don't want to go to canvas, I'm going to stay here. But we can see that the default filter has 3 parameters: min, mag, and anisotropy. What the heck does this word mean? Does anyone know what the word anisotropy means? Or anisotropy? That's a crazy word. Anisotropy is the structural property of non-uniformity in different directions, as opposed to isotropy. An anisotropic object or pattern has properties that differ according to direction measurement. For example, many materials exhibit very different physical or mechanical properties when measured along different axes. Or axes. That didn't answer my question at all. Displaying the nature of plasmas, in this case the phenomenon of filamentation. Alrighty. Anisotropy. Anisotropic is like when light reflects on your hair. Okay. I'm gonna have to read up on this because I actually I should specifically look up anisotropy in game development. In game development. Nothing comes up when I. Oh wait, here's one. Wow, this is exactly what I want. What is anisotropic filtering in games? Is a technique used in computer graphics to improve the visual quality of textures viewed at oblique angles. Oh, okay, so this is like rotation value, I think. Migo says, I know they add anisotropic to the Kuwahara filter to preserve the edges. I think it has to do with... Dude, I'm gonna have to actually research this. Anisotropy is 3D texturing. Anti-aliasing. By the way, shouldn't you have access to apply for Twitch affiliate? Yeah, I do. Or kind of. Actually, no, I don't. Because I only stream 4 times a month on Twitch. And you need to stream once a... What is it? 2 times a week. So if I wanted to be affiliate, I would need to do that. But also, I don't think I want affiliate because once I do that, then ads are going to start, right? Or do you get ads on Twitch already? If turning on affiliate would add ads, I probably am not going to do that. Leandro says, since you make game with Lua, have you ever used default? And yeah, we were talking about default just a moment ago, actually. I haven't tried it specifically, but we talked about it on stream before. Review says, in third-person game, it would allow a sharper floor rather than blurring due to min-mapping the angle. I think I'm starting to kind of get it, and it'll make more sense once I actually, go back to this. You get ads on YouTube very occasionally. Yeah, I think YouTube ads are gonna come up occasionally because I do have it turned on YouTube, but not. It's supposed to not happen very often. And the reason I have it turned on is because I feel like I noticed that when I have it turned off, YouTube just doesn't show the stream to anyone. I really feel like it's a little bit biased. You can customize how much ads people get, I think, but yeah, there's a minimum. Yeah, with Twitch. So I have to look into see how invasive it is. So if I'm actually full disclosure, I don't use Twitch very often, only when my friends specifically are streaming. And that's because whenever I click on a stream, it plays like a 30-second ad. And I don't want to, like, sit around for 30 seconds just to see if the stream that I clicked on is something I'm interested in or not. And that's the thing, like, on YouTube, I can click through videos, and if I see that the creator isn't something that I'm interested in, I can just change to something else. But Twitch, man, it really feels frustrating that I have to click on a stream, wait 30 seconds, and then see if it's something I'm interested in. It's just not good for discovery, I feel like. Ravi says Google anisotropic floor example. I'm gonna look that up. Anisotropic floor example. So I think I'm understanding what this means now. So the floor texture that we're past, welcome in, thank you. The floor texture that we're using in this 3D game example is a flat image, and it just like looks like stone, and that's why when it's really close up you can see it clearly, but it's angled down and farther away, which is going to blur the image if it's scaled up in a non-anisotropic way. Thank you so much for pointing out this example. That's perfect. This very, very accurately explains what that means. And you can even kind of see the textured tiles, because there's wow, it's really hard to see, but there's like a little blip, a line between the textures, and this just keeps everything sharper. And back to making filter exception for the fire. Thank you for the reminder, because I definitely forgot. So back to this. I wish that it showed me what the defaults are. Oh, filter mode. Here we go. These are my options. linear default. Okay, so I actually do have to write linear. So I just need to say linear, linear. Man as a sword eater. That's an interesting idea. So that makes more sense than destroying him. Like, you actually eat your sword in order to heal. That's funny. Am I gonna be able to make a game on my own? Yeah, I mean, I'm making a game on my own. So it didn't work. Set default filter. Am I able to just set the filter? Texture set filter. What's texture? Well, what qualifies as a texture is what I'm wondering. Oh, it's just an image. Whoa! You can set the filter of specific images? Whoa! Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Okay, let's try that. I didn't know that you could do that. So dot sprite. So here we set the sprite, but the sprite does get over. It gets set over somewhere else. So let's go down to here, and then I'm going to say flame dot sprite. Look at this. So this is when GitHub Copilot is actually useful, because it like read my mind, and it knows that I wanted to type this, and I can just press tab and it puts it in. That's awesome. I love when Copilot actually comes through and gives me something good, but it gave me the wrong filter type, which is not a problem. O says, I hate you. I hate the way you talk. Sorry about that. Let's see. So, oh look, it worked. It worked. You do not set the filter in the draw function, but rather, yeah, when you load the textures into memory. You are completely right. So they definitely worked. Let me default filter. So the default filter, I think what you're saying is that the reason default filter works here is because this is before the textures are loaded into memory. And it uses this default filter when it actually creates a sprite. So just changing the default filter here in the draw function wouldn't do anything. I have to actually change the filter type. Prostocotilio, or let me get that right. Prostocotilo. Welcome in. Thank you for stopping in. Are you going to keep the fire like that? Let's see. Probably not. Like, this is clever. This is cute. I like how this looks, but it does not. It just fits. It doesn't fit. Sorry. I need to stop stuttering so much. But yeah, this the fire looks cool like this, but I feel like it just sticks out too much. It's not quite right. It's cool that we can do this. And genuinely, I didn't know how this worked. I'm really glad that we were able to talk about this, because I learned something today. I didn't know that the filtering happens on the texture level as opposed to the game level. O says, I hate the way that you sneak diss. I don't know what that even means, dude. Native English speakers don't know correct sound, so don't worry. That's fair. But also, I think that it's harder to understand English when I'm speaking very quickly, because I have a tendency to speak fast. And like when I was learning Spanish in high school and I watched like news reports from Spanish speakers or any sort of Spanish video, it was so hard for me to follow along, because like Spanish speakers, they speak really fast. There's no need to slow down. It's the same way as me. I speak really fast in English, and I imagine that it's hard for non-English speakers to understand everything that I say, because I just talk a mile a minute or a kilometer a minute for my international friends. O says, sorry, I'll stop, but it's not because I feel bad, it's because I forgot the lyrics. Oh, were you singing a song? Yes, in case you set the filter to linear, then load the fire textures, and set the filter to nearest, and finally you load the rest into textures. Yeah, I think I get how it works now. But that's really cool that I'm able to do this. I didn't know that I could just change the specific texture. But I'm gonna comment this out. I don't think it fits, but I will keep this option in mind. Maybe certain effects could have that. Don't worry, it's not that hard to understand you as a French. Oh, as a French speaker. I'm glad to hear that. So my biggest problem is that wouldn't it be 1.6 kilometers per minute? Yeah, exactly. The problem is I get overexcited once I start talking, and it just leads me to stutter. It leads me to slur my speech. Oh, Allfather, welcome in on Twitch. I found that watching D&D, it helps pretty much, not for learning English, but for understanding weird accents. Totally. I absolutely think that immersing yourself in a language, even if you're not fully understanding everything, is going to help a lot. I don't know that from personal experience, because I took Spanish in high school for 4 years. Like, I had 4 years of Spanish, and you would think that 4 years of studying a language would mean that you can, like, basically speak it fluently, but no, not really. The trick to speaking it fluently is you have to immerse yourself in the language. Ideally, you would live somewhere where people are actually using it, because if you just go to a classroom for an hour a day and learn Spanish, it doesn't work very well. Like, I learned to read Spanish pretty decently, but anything more than that, it was a struggle. And now, these days, since it's been so long since I was in high school, I'm like, I'm well over a decade out of high school, so I basically forgot a lot of that stuff. Alrighty, players frequently use weird voices, so it could be tricky to figure. Sorry, players. I'm also bad at reading, I think. Whenever I read a comment, that's when I start, like, I don't know. I just start stuttering like crazy. We have it as a business language or something like this. Do I enjoy making sprites? Yeah, I like making sprites, but the thing is, I don't tend to make sprites from scratch. I have a tendency to take a sprite that already exists and edit it into something that fits my style. And like this. Whoops. Man, the sound effects are so messed up. I have so much work to do. It's crazy. What do you think of hue shifting the pixel art? I think it's a great idea. In fact, in this version that you're looking at now, everything is hue shifted a little bit, because if I go into the shaders, I can change the hue shifting right here. I could make everything, let's make everything green. I show this most streams. I do show this off, but hue shifting does exist in the game. And, like, I could make a level that is hue shifted like this. This looks like a unique area, and all I did was make everything more green. Drink water, thank you, appreciate that. But even the default shading is hue shifted a little bit. It kind of looks almost a little purple. If I look at the shaders, it's increased blue and decrease the others, but the saturation is boosted by 5%. It's also got a little bit of darkness too. So all of these things added together, it does hue shift the whole image. The frame rate difference effect animation and characters animation is crazy. Yeah, I think so too. How did you make the map? So there's this piece of software called Tiled online. Oh, do you know this thing? Sorry, Crown Sheep says, do you know the game Slime Rancher, and so do you like it? I've seen videos of it, and it seems really cool. I haven't played it myself, though. So maps are made with this program called Tiled, and it allows you to, like, import tile sets or tile sheets, and then I can just, like, take these little tiles and place them into the world. And that's how a map like this gets created. It's very slow paced, but this software works really nicely. Why did I add those settings? Are you talking about the shader settings? If you're asking why I added the shader settings, it's because it's nice to have, and by the way, this is just debug. I'm not going to allow players to just change the shading whenever they want. This debug menu is just here for me to test things out. And the reason I put it in the game is so that, oh, maybe the map looks better if I boost the blue to 1.2. And it's like, that's a subtle change. It doesn't look that much different, but maybe this is better. And it's out in-game without having to close the game, reload it with the new settings, because now I can like test it side by side. And I can see like 1.3 under blue makes it a little too blue. It's probably too much, but it's nice that I don't have to keep restarting the game in order to get that context. What's the name of this song? This is Miitomo from the Miitomo shop. Or sorry, this is Miitomo shop from Miitomo. But I'm just playing like a playlist from YouTube. Look, it's Yoshi and an egg. But I'm also working on getting that. What is it? I'm working on getting a bunch of MP3s for my own favorite video game songs. And making a playlist out of it, because I like the music from this channel. I've been playing this channel on all my streams recently, but there's some songs that I don't like that they play, and there's some songs that I have downloaded that I would prefer to play instead. Also, what I'm planning to do is making it so that when the song changes, it's going to post in chat, both on YouTube and on Twitch, what song is playing, so that, like, I don't know, everyone will always know. Because, like, personally, I didn't know what the name of the song was. I didn't personally play Miitomo, so I didn't know what the song was. I recognized the song. But it would be nice to have a way to see what songs are playing, because that's something that I'm really interested in. About Tile, there's a terrain tool. Yes, I do use the terrain tool. So when you edit the sprite, or when you edit the sprite sheet, you can add these little blocks, like these red colors, and that turns it into a terrain, like a terrain brush. And if I go back, that allows me to click on that terrain, and then I can like draw walls in like this. And that's how the texture brush works. Or I guess it's not texture, this is terrain. That's neat. Yeah, I think so too. I use the texture brush, or the I keep calling it texture. It's terrain brush all the time. Snippet, welcome in. I would use a katana with a dash teleport skill. That's a cool idea. I'm still kind of working on what sort of abilities the player's gonna have, because yeah, you can roll around and you can pick up weapons, but I think there's more I can add to it without making the controls too complex. Because that's the thing, is that I don't want to add too many extra keybinds, too many extra controls, but at the same time I want a lot of options that players can do. I saw your course on Udemy, but bro, I don't wait, sorry, I'm having trouble reading that. What did you teach there? Will I be able to make my game after watching that? If you want my opinion on if you should buy the course, I think that you should follow, there's a YouTube playlist that I made that's free, just getting you started with Love 2D, or whatever course you want. I don't think that you need to buy the course right away, but if you try out Love 2D and it's something that you like, then yeah, I'd say that buying the course is a great idea, because it goes through a lot of the fundamentals, and getting started on your own project after that would be a lot simpler, I think, because I don't know, I just provide a lot of context. I wouldn't say it's necessary though, especially if you use like the free, I have a getting started playlist. It's a good playlist of videos. Moon Rido says, what software do you use for making the terrain? This is all just, this is tiled, and then the terrain editor is how I do the brushes. But in terms of like sprite editing, it's just a sprite like any other. So if I go to the maps, the tile sets, I can go to, oh look, there's my eyes again. So this is like oh wait, no, let's pull up this one. This one's better. And when I edit these tiles, it literally is just editing it as any other image. And I organize them based on this 16 by 16 grid so that I can just click on them. So like these rocks or this little blade of grass, I can go into the tile sheet. I'm sorry for stuttering. I'm really trying not to. And I can click on an individual tile because they're all organized in that 16 by 16 grid. And you just place it down. It's nice. Maybe a parry mechanic to the roll could be fun. Yeah, so I am planning to add a parry mechanic, and it's kind of in the game at the moment. or in my version here, do is making it so that there's an item. Once you get this item, it'll let you parry, and you parry by just dodging in place. And so right now, if you're moving and you dodge, you do the roll. But if you dodge in place, that's what's going to trigger the parry. Want to see your Node.js game? How does Node.js make a game? I am interested in seeing that. I didn't know you could make games with Node.js. Did I make most of the art? I wouldn't say I made most of it, but I edited all of it. So the artwork comes from a combination of open source sprite packs, paid asset packs. I've commissioned a lot of pixel artists to help with specific sprites. And then I made a lot of the sprites myself. But I think 100% of the sprites in this game are edited by me in one way or another. Either I like change the shading, adjust the shape, change the animation frames, I add the black outline. There's all sorts of things that I edit in order to make everything cohesive with my style, because if you just go online and find a bunch of free asset packs and put them in your game, it'll be fine, but the challenge is making all of those sprites mesh together in a way that just looks good. Oh, I didn't know you already had a parry. That's great. I mean, like, I never talked. This is the first time I've mentioned the parry to anyone. I've never mentioned it because it's kind of like an experimental thing, but I do want to add it because it fits into the control scheme really nicely. It makes sense that dodging in place would kind of parry, and it makes sense that dodging while you're walking would cause you to roll. I think that using Node.js, you can use libraries like Phaser.js. Yeah, exactly. I can see making a game with Phaser because that's like an actual game engine, but Node.js is like a management suite or something like that. I don't know what I would really consider it. Do you have any experience besides Love2D? Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I made games with GameMaker, and that's a really, really good way to start making games. But when I moved on to this, it's just, yeah, Lua and Love2D coding. But I also have a degree in computer science. I worked in the software industry for a while, so I have a lot of coding experience, a lot of just development experience, even though I never worked in the games industry specifically. I worked for Microsoft in like the cloud computing space. So my professional experience doesn't translate one-to-one to this, but, you know, when you code a lot for a job, you get pretty good at coding. Thanks to your input, I finally got my game to have proper rotation interpolation on the sprites. It works? Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. It took me a while to figure out how that works too. So I'm really glad that I could help clarify that. That would be a good video topic, don't you think? If I could make a video on interpolation for scaling. Because actually, you know what I could do? I could make a whole video for how scaling in my game works in general, because part of what makes my game neat is that I can scale down the window to any size, and the scaling interpolation is so smooth, and everything is it's just organized in such a nice way that I can like scale down the game to be tiny, and it still works. Like, the game still works exactly the same as it does when it's full scale. Drink water, thank you. And does your character defecate and pee? No, it does not. That's super cool. Yeah, thank you. I'm very particularly proud of this feature. And the cool thing is that now that I figured it out for this game, I think that getting it to work for any game is going to be just as easy, because now that I know how it works. Yeah, for what it's worth, for GameMaker, it's just a matter of increasing the resolution of the application surface and keeping interpolation off. Yeah, that makes sense. So if GameMaker is designed, or whatever engine you're using, is designed to keep true pixel scaling, then yeah, you'd have that weird rotation interpolation. But yeah, since my game just scales up to match the resolution of the screen, it makes rotation look nice. Because like, another rotation is, this character here is holding a torch, and the torch is rotated a little bit. It's not being held straight up and down. The flowers and these blades of grass, like when I walk over top of these blades of grass, they rotate a little bit. Let's find some other things that rotate. I'm sure there's plenty of things that rotate. Kurikai says, what happens when you make width so much than length? Let's try it. So this is a problem with the game technically, because if you look really closely, it's showing some stuff off screen. Everything looks fine on this side, but the map isn't wide enough to account for a resolution that's this wide. The only resolution, the widest resolution I'm accounting for is my computer screen, which is an ultra wide. It's dude, what is it? It's two 16:9s next to each other, which is, you know, it's about like this. So my computer screen is this wide, if you can believe it. It's really, really wide. But I don't think there are any screens that are wider than this. Like, look, can you imagine? Can you imagine playing the game like this? It'd be so weird. You can see so far off screen. I don't know how to fix that. And look, you can even see the texture kind of getting black over here. And it's gonna pop in just a moment, probably. Somehow you forgot about Moonshire Monday. I mean, there's no need to always pop in, but I appreciate anyone that stops by. Yeah, I do Moonshire Monday every Monday. I haven't missed one for... I don't think I haven't missed one at all yet since I started doing this. So that's been really nice. And the big thing that I want to get out of streaming is I want to get better at speaking. I have such a problem with stuttering. I need to get better at just talking well. So these streams have been really good practice for me, and I like talking to like the audience and talking to people. There's a lot of chatters, and I appreciate everyone that's posting images or posting comments. Have you tried LDTK? Let's just download it. I'm gonna go ahead and download it because more people have been talking about it. So I'm gonna download it now. And I don't know if I'm going to try it on stream, but I'm gonna download it and make sure that it actually works. It makes the player see places that I can't even reach. Yeah, exactly. Is that it's just being able to see off screen, which is kind of weird. For what it's worth, the stuttering is hardly noticeable. Coming from someone who also stutters is probably something we notice more ourselves than others actually do. You are definitely right about that. You're 100% right about that. It's something that at the moment I'm like extra insecure about, and so I notice it. It's the same thing as when I was, I don't know, like maybe like 5 years ago, I was really insecure about my voice pitch. I felt like my voice was too high pitched, and I was insecure about people thinking that I was a kid. I hated that. Like when you're 22 years old and someone thinks you're like 17, it's the worst feeling ever. I was so insecure about it, and I would overcompensate, and I would complain about how bad my voice was. But in reality, like, it wasn't a problem. My voice wasn't too high. There's not a problem with a high voice to begin with. And my insecurity about feeling like a kid, it was the insecurity that showed. It wasn't my voice giving that insecurity away. You've heard higher? Yeah, I know plenty of people with higher voices than mine. And it doesn't really matter to me anymore. But yeah, at the time, when I was 20, I was so pissed off at people thinking I was like 15 years old, even though it doesn't really matter. But I was really insecure about it. I'm not insecure about it at all anymore. I'm 28. If someone thinks that I'm 22, it doesn't matter because being 22 is actually kind of cool. I've passed the age where like looking younger than you actually are is actually a nice thing. Like, it doesn't bother me if someone thinks I'm 22 because that's still flattering. But when you're 22 and someone thinks that you're 16, it's almost like an insult. People gave me 25 when I was 30. That's nice. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be, because I'm going to be 30 in a couple of years, and I bet that people would guess I'm mid-20s, early 20s. Maybe not in real life, but maybe the way I portray myself online. How did you get this deep voice, please, sir? Tell me. Is my voice deep? It just depends. It also depends on who I'm talking to. I've noticed that when I talk to people that I like, or I'm talking about something that I enjoy, if I'm in a good mood, my voice goes up. Like, it's way higher pitched. But when I am being negative, or when I'm talking to someone that I don't like, then people have a tendency to, or I should say, I have a tendency to lower my voice, and I get real deep. What is deep for voice? I don't know. But when I was really insecure about this, I like my first Udemy course, I actually pitch bent all of my audio down. So it was obvious too. It sounded so weird. It sounded like, Hello, my name is Kyle, and I'm here to talk to you about Love 2D and Lua. And it sounded so silly. It totally sounded like a child, like overcompensating to sound more like an adult. And it would have been way better if I was just confident in myself and had the confidence to speak, because a high voice with confidence sounds way more mature than a deep voice without confidence. It's noticeable. So that's my advice for anyone that feels that way like I did. How did you come up with this character design? The glowy eye hooded figure is almost like a cliche that I've always liked. And the shape, I kind of based off of a Shy Guy from Link's Awakening. Like the sort of shape comes from that, but it's very different. I don't even know if I should show the specific sprite, because I bet people would get mad at seeing that. But it's very different. Like this doesn't look at all like the Shy Guy from Link's Awakening, but I use that sprite as like a starting point to help me figure out how does a hood look, how does like a squished down short character look? Because that's the other thing, is it's easy to make tall characters, because in real life, people are tall. People in real life don't have proportions like this. They have proportions more like, I don't even know, but they are not this short. But in a video game, tall characters don't really work as well, because like look at my collision. It's right around the base of the body. But if the player was tall, like let's say the player was tall, like as tall as the sunflower here, that would mean that the physics would still be the same size, and the player would just be taller, and it just made the whole thing more confusing. And the same applies with any enemies. Like if this dummy here was tall, it would be unclear where the physics is. But since it's just at the base of all of these short people and short enemies, it kind of works out a little bit better, I think. If someone has higher pitch and codes like you, he's a legend. Yeah. I don't think I have a deep voice. I can make it deep. Oh, have you guys ever had like a cold, like a really bad throat cold, and it destroys your throat and your voice, and it just suddenly makes your voice deep? I remember a time when I got sick, and I was able to like sing songs in a deep tone that I was never able to sing before. I was like, I hurt myself today. Except it was like a whole octave lower. It was so funny. It felt magical almost that I was able to sing that low. The stream keeps lagging, but I just changed my internet a bit and it's much faster. I'm sorry for anyone that's experiencing delays with the stream. I've tried everything that I can to make it better, but I think in general it's okay. We get drops once in a while, but I think that it's overall not bad. Yep, your game has a nice style. Appreciate that. Thank you. Damn, I'm a bit late. I mean, we're still going to be here for another 30 or 40 minutes, so... The flame spell still infuses the weapon with fire. I'm so sorry, but I had to cut that. I love that ability, and there's probably a way I can incorporate that into the game again, but the spell system just, it felt too disconnected, and I really am trying to keep the number of features and abilities super compact and concise. So at the moment that skill isn't in the game anymore, I really do like that. So for people wondering, there was an ability that I showed off in a video where you could like take the great sword and cast a spell on it, and it would become like a flaming great sword, and it was awesome. I actually loved that, but I don't know how to incorporate that into the control scheme anymore. I still want to do that, but I'll have to think about a good way to do it. Do I like my granny's cookies, bro? That's an interesting question, but my granny does not make cookies. I had a bad cold, my voice became cranky and squishy. Yeah, I get that. When I get sick, I sound like a goblin? Yeah, exactly, me too. I haven't been sick for a long time. I was thinking about this the other day. I think the last time I was actually really sick was when I got the booster for the COVID vaccine, or like the second shot. Or actually, did I get the second shot? I can't remember which one I got. But one of the COVID vaccines made me feverish, which I think is a normal symptom. But I think that was the most sick that I've been since the last like 5 years. Flaming Sword. Yeah, actually, let me pull up the video because it's a cool demo. It's not in the game anymore, unfortunately. I had to remove it. So let me find my own channel. There we go. So the Flaming Sword was like activate once I cast. The downside of having everything activate at once is that it limits any sort of strategy during combat. You're just waiting for the energy bar to get full, and once it is, you cast and repeat. It's a cool idea. Oh yeah, let's show this up here. Speaking of, there's going to be a few different spells that you'll find throughout the game, and the next one I'm working on is Fire. When you cast it, the weapon you're using gets... I love it. I think it's very cool. I like that you can make your sword flaming and start like burning stuff. I think it's awesome. I need to figure out how to incorporate that in a good way. Go on Udemy and search Love 2D, click on the one by Kyle. Yeah. So my name's Kyle Schaub. So anything that you find on Udemy or any other, I have courses on Udemy and on Skillshare. So anything by those that says Kyle Schaub, that'll be me. Could be cool as a boss-only weapon where you lose it after the fight. That's an interesting idea. I like gimmick fights. It just depends. I don't want to force people into a specific weapon, probably. But some kind of gimmick where you incorporate different weapons, that makes sense. Or like the boss drops a weapon, and you use that weapon to like destroy its armor, and then you could switch back to whatever other weapon you have and use that weapon to do damage. I don't really like forcing players to use a specific weapon for any specific like boss. I think of Elden Ring. In Elden Ring, there's this boss called the World-Eating Serpent in Rickard, and you have to use the spear of like Serpent Bane or something like that. It's some kind of spear that's specifically good against this boss, and if you don't use the spear, the boss is exceptionally difficult. And I didn't like that because I was using a mage build, and it felt weird that I had to suddenly change stats a little bit and change my drink water, thank you, and change my like upgrades for that weapon just so I could fight this one specific boss. It felt weird. I would have preferred to be able to use my own build to fight Rickard because I love that boss a lot, and I actually did fight him without the spear for like an hour trying to beat him without it. And I thought the fight was so much fun, especially actually both phases of that fight is really fun because it's just so big and so difficult, and you have to really understand the moves to dodge them correctly. But with the spear, you can do so much damage that it kind of just goes by so fast that you don't have to worry very much about it. What about forcing a type, like a torch or flame sword? Yeah, that's a good idea. Like, let's say that you had a boss that was like ice themed, and it had a big ice shield. And the only way to get rid of that shield and do damage to it was to burn the shield with fire in some way or another. That's a cool idea because, like, you're removing the armor, you're making it vulnerable with a certain type, but you can damage it with any other type. I think that that's kind of a direction that I'd like to take things. I think you can add special abilities for specific weapons. That is a cool idea, and I kind of had that for a while. That might still be in the game. Yeah, it is. So every weapon does have a special. Is this one still in the game? No, it's not. I took that one out. Like the Great Axe. I think the Great Axe still has a special. So you like, it does a double slash. And that's not a very good example. I think this one's a better example. Unless I took it out. Okay, yeah, this one. So, special abilities for each individual weapon, I think is cool. I think it's very cool. I love that Elden Ring has weapons with specific Ashes of War or specific abilities. It's very neat. But, again, I have to find a way to activate those skills without it being awkward. So, my first attempt at doing that, like this axe that can shoot a big beam. The problem with this ability is the way that you activate it is by charging the attack. And I find that really, really awkward because you have to slash first. It's like, oh, I want to hit this guy with a beam, but that means I have to slash, hold, and then release, and that shoots the beam. there has to be a different way. How else can I activate that ability without having to charge the attack? Because charging the attack feels so weird. It feels weird that if I want to do like a quick heavy stab, I have to charge it. I don't know. I mean, the best example is with the glass axe because it's a projectile attack. It's actually different. So charging the attack just feels very weird. Moonshire, welcome back. You can make some suggestions. I'm open to any suggestions always. But one thing that people need to keep in mind is that, like, I listen to all suggestions and I appreciate all suggestions, but I also think about this 24/7. So it's possible that I have thought of this idea and I've thought of some problem with it. So please don't be too critical or offended if I don't take your ideas, because like one thing that people I've noticed that, like, with this HUD here, this 3-in-1, I get a lot of people that say, oh, you should switch it over to like a heart system like Zelda, and I get that. I think most people that I talk to prefer Zelda's hearts over my like HUD up here, and again, I get that, but I have thought about this game so much and I have played this game so much that I genuinely believe that this HUD is better than Zelda. And even though the majority of people that I talk to prefer Zelda's, I have to just like make my executive decision to do what I think is best context than everyone else. That's basically what I mean. Would it be horrible to have the attacks be on a key release? That way you can charge your first attack without a slash. I have thought about that, and that is a good suggestion. But in the end, I feel like that just makes the game a little too weird, because how do I explain this? If attacks come out on release of the click, then that's going to make everything slower, because if a click is it's gonna happen on the rather than the like it's an immediate slash, and I think I need to keep it that way. But I'm 100% with you that it almost would be better if it wasn't like that. And with picking up weapons, I'm thinking about doing that, where you have to actually let me how do I explain this? I want to make it so that the pickup button to pick up weapons is right click. So for example, you right click in order to pick up weapons, but you have to hold it down. And then if you tap right click, like you just release it quickly, it would switch to a different weapon you're holding. But like that's just something I'm thinking about. I haven't implemented it yet. I have a question. How do you get money? I worked a job. I worked as a software developer. I built a career around making money. And now that I have money saved up, I'm able to do this full time. Game development does not make me money at the moment. Selling courses on Udemy makes me some, but it's not enough to live on. The main source of my money was just working really hard, living well below my means, and learning how to invest. That's a big aspect too. So being financially responsible in your working years is a very, very, very important part of this whole journey. Because if you go into game development without any money, you're just asking for a bad time. You're just asking for like a publisher to come along and say, oh, I noticed that you have no money and you need a publisher. How about you sign this deal? That's when people sign onto horrible deals that they just shouldn't do. Drink water, thank you. So if you have your own money, if you self-fund your own game, which is the term, oh, Prosto said, how do you pronounce your nickname? I say Chalacade, for anyone that was asking. Sign away your soul. Yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, let's say that I'm a game developer, or let's go with a more common example. Let's say that I am fresh out of college, because when I was in college, I met multiple people that were saying this exact same thing. They say, I don't care about money, I just want to make games. It doesn't matter if I have a nice lifestyle. I don't want to buy a bunch of stuff. I just want to make games. And I 100% agree with that mentality. That is important. That you aren't money focused, that you are focused on just making a good game, a good product. That's the goal. And I respect that. But the harsh reality that I think those people experience is they don't care about money. They don't start a career that earns a lot of money. They just jump straight into game development, and they run out of money. And yeah, passion is great, but bills still exist, is exactly the point. If you can't pay your bills, you can't develop a game, because you have to go work for money. If you don't have money, you're not going to be able to create a game unless you go to a publisher that screws you over. Like, if you don't have any money and you need to get this game created, but you can't pay your bills, you have two options. Or actually, you have a lot of options. You could borrow the money, you could go work a regular job and then make the game on the side, or you could find a publisher. And publishers, they can smell desperation. They can tell when you don't have the money to create this game. And if they know that you will sign whatever in order to get this game created, they're going to give you a horrible deal. It's the same like with a job interview. If they know that you aren't going to say no, they're not going to negotiate with you. It's just negotiation in general. If you are not willing to walk away, you are going to lose the negotiation. And I have a feeling that publishers can really tell when someone is not able to walk away. So for example, if you get a job offer for any sort of job in life, and they give you a money offer that is good, and you're happy with it, and you aren't actually willing to walk away from the offer, my advice is do not negotiate. If you're trying to negotiate, but you secretly would not walk away from the offer, don't negotiate, because you're just setting yourself up for vulnerability. If you try to negotiate and they figure out that you aren't actually willing to walk away, you are screwing yourself so hard. And it's the same with a publisher deal. If you're a game developer and you're meeting with a publisher and you are desperate, it's like, I need this publisher to sign me on, otherwise this game isn't getting created. The publisher will smell that desperation and they will screw you over so hard. They will make you sign over all of your rights because that's the only, because you're desperate. You aren't willing to walk away from the deal, and therefore you're just gonna sign on to something bad. It's a horrible situation that people put themselves in because they just don't have the money to pay their bills. They don't have the money to pay their employees to get the game created. And even if it's just a hobby, well, that's what I mean. I genuinely think most people should treat game development as a hobby until your finances are in a really stable spot that you can just focus on it all the time. Well, I also make games like Dude, but my laptop is broken now. I can't make anymore. I'm sorry to hear that. What is Moonshire lore about? Sorry for missing your message a few times. The lore isn't specific, but the opening cutscene is going to be just a really small, easy thing, where basically you start here. It shows that the moon in Moonshire is about to shatter. Like if I go to the main menu, I want it to show that. Excuse me. I want to show the moon starting to shatter, and basically it's like a very short intro just to give you some sort of motivation. Allfather, thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate that. And you said drink water. Thank you. I also appreciate that the water reminders, because if I did not have the water reminders, I would not drink any water during the stream. It's so games is in a tile-based game. Which function name do you prefer to check if a tile is occupied? Is tile occupied? Tile is occupied. Tile occupied. It's totally up to you, because that naming scheme is different than the way that I name my functions. All of my functions in my game are camel case, like new flame, or let's find some other ones. On anim complete, cooldown done, anim hit start. It's the same kind of idea as yours, where it's a few words like smushed together. And if you use underscores, that's perfectly fine. It's basically the same thing. If you think that is tile occupied, to answer your question, if it was me, I probably would choose is tile occupied. I think that would be my choice. So in my game, I would call it function n : is tile occupied. Yeah, and I like that, because calling it tile occupied, like without the is, the is a big indicator that this function is going to return a boolean. It's going to return true or false. Rated by Dankenstein Live. Thank you so much for joining. You rated with 8 people. That's awesome. Thank you so much for everyone joining. So for anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Kyle, or Chalacade. I'm working on this game called Moonshire. It's on Steam. You can try it for free. There's a demo. But the Steam demo is outdated. A lot of the stuff that I'm showing off on stream is a bit more modern. It's a bit more recent. And I'm still working on making it look good. And so once I'm at that point, I'm going to update the Steam demo, and it'll be a lot better. So up to you if you want to try it right now. Please find a publisher for physical Nintendo Switch release and tell them you're not desperate and you will walk away if they don't include a keychain in a basic version. Dude, I would love a physical release of this game because I love physical games. I'm not gonna be able to show it on camera, but I have a huge collection behind me on a bookshelf, and it bums me out that we're entering the age of fully digital games where like the consoles don't even come with disc drives anymore. Like the PlayStation 5, geez, how weird. What a weird timeline. But it also makes sense because it's much cheaper to distribute games digitally. It's better for the publishers, that's for sure. Howdy, how's it going? It's going good. Thank you again for the raid. I really appreciate that. Played the Steam demo yesterday. Game looks a lot better since then. Keep up the good work. Yeah, thank you. Excited to buy it when it comes out. It'll probably be another year before the whole game is done and comes out, but the main sprint that I'm on right now is getting this new version on Steam, because the Steam version is good, but this new version, it's like, it fixes all of the little issues. And I mentioned this in a previous stream where there's this game development, I wouldn't call it a rule, but it's like a saying, where the first 80% of the game takes 20% of the time. Well, it takes 20% of development time, but the remaining 20% of the game takes 80% of development time. Like, I've heard people say that, and I was always skeptical, like, that doesn't make sense. I'm feeling that a lot right now, because, like, for a while, I was putting out monthly Steam demo updates, and it was a meaningful amount of content in each update, but at the same time, it just wasn't working out. So that's all there is to it. Thanks for your game. My daughter loves to play every now and then, and the demo line, I love it too. That's awesome. Thank you so much for playing it. Moon Rido says, I have a question. Have you heard about Lover in Lua for 3D? If yes. Yeah, so I have heard about that. And 3D with Love 2D sounds like a cool gimmick. I wouldn't recommend someone like make a full game with it. But one thing that I'm thinking about is adding like maybe a small level or a transition where it goes 3D. I think that would be really cool if, like, as a surprise, a specific area becomes 3D or like first person or some weird little thing happens, and using Lover for that would be kind of cool just to show it off. How do you get to this large popularity? Did you use any trick or it happened on its own? So building an audience online, I started on Udemy. I started posting my courses on Udemy. And that was before I started on YouTube. Well, I had a previous YouTube when I was a kid, but I'm talking about like Chalacade recently. So I started on Udemy, I made courses, and built up a small audience there, which I'm surprised and happy I was able to do that, because building an audience off of a paid product is much harder than building an audience on like YouTube where everything's free. So I'm happy that I was able to get a few people from there. And then at some point I'm like, okay, I want to branch out to YouTube because there's more people there and I can reach more of an audience. So that's when I started adapting my tutorials for YouTube specifically, so that like some of the Udemy content could be used on YouTube as well. And that could be like not necessarily like an avenue towards Udemy, but it's something that semi-advertises it. It could be cool the same way A Link to the Past uses 3D effects for the crystals. Oh, that's so true. That's such a cool idea. Yeah, I love the 3D effects in Link to the Past. That is such a cool idea. Because it's subtle. It's a subtle effect, and it's not used overbearingly. It's used in very specific cutscenes. And it fits the theme because those cutscenes are really minimal. I love that idea. Thank you for that suggestion. I think that's great. Because a 3D crystal like that, it sticks out so well. I'm gonna see if I can pull up a picture of it. Link to the Past 3D effect. Oh, nope. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to find this. I'd have to find like a YouTube video of someone doing a dungeon. it would take me too long to find it, but I think you get the idea. It's just like for a little cutscene, you can add a 3D object into the space. You don't have to make the whole scene. Do you guys hear that? Oh my gosh, there's like someone mowing right outside my window. I said before in another stream, but it's because of your Monogame Udemy course that I got into game dev. Very grateful for that. That's so awesome. Thank you for taking the course. I love Monogame. I think Monogame is good because it has more features specifically than Love2D. Like it has the console support, which is pretty cool. And C# I think is a better language for game development. But I like Love2D a little bit more just because it's simpler. With Monogame, you have to worry about the content pipeline, which I think is annoying. And you have to work in Visual Studio, or you don't have to. I've heard rumors that you can change it to something different, but I think ideally it's built around Visual Studio, and Visual Studio is very, very heavy compared to Visual Studio Code. But I think that you can use Visual Studio Code for Monogame now. I bet that it's been improved. Monogame is C#. There's another saying in the same vein that goes, the first 90% of the code accounts for the first 90% of the development time. The remaining 10% of the code accounts for the other 90% of development time. Yeah, exactly. That's 180% of development time. And that's how long, like, if you take an estimate for how long your game's going to take to create, 180% is about right. I'm currently working on a Langton's ant algorithm in Monogame. Langton's ant. I'm gonna look that up. Langton's ant. I've never heard of this. Langton's ant is a two-dimensional Turing machine with a very simple set of rules, but complex. Oh, is this like the Game of Life? I bet if I search Game of Life. I knew it! I knew it! It's exactly like the Game of Life. Which I love. I think that this sort of stuff is really neat. Have you guys ever seen the Game of Life? This is what it is. It's very cool. It's a 0-player video game. It's so funny. Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know what Conway's Game of Life is it's an algorithm where you see these little blocks, and the blocks change state, and they kind of move around and create little clumps like this. And it's just meant to show different patterns based on starting patterns. And the way that these blocks like collide, like how this section collides with this block, and it causes some weird stuff to happen, it's just because the algorithm has like a bunch of weird rules that lead it to sometimes be... Oh no, it says it's always infinite, or the universe is infinite, but they can die out. So the funny part about Game of Life is that sometimes you'll start with a pattern and then they'll just like go extinct and the whole thing will die. But in other interactions, you can start it off in a way where it just expands infinitely and it just overpopulates to infinity. And this idea of a 0-player game is very similar. It is very silly. It just means it's a simulation that runs on its own. Yeah, determined by initial state, the cellular automation. Look, the cellular automation just links to this exact same little demo. Well, you make the tile set yourself or get it made by someone else, yeah. I start with a tile set. Normally, the tile sets come from like itch.io, or I pay for them, and then I edit them to match my style. Game of Life or cellular automata can be used to create caves. Did you use some kind of code to generate some room in your game? No, that's a good question, and procedural generation is something that I do have an interest in. It's something I'd like to add like a post-game like level or something. I don't want to include procedural generation in the main game, but after release, I'd love to add something like that. In an old version of my game, I'm gonna pull up the video. In an old version of my game, I had, what is it called, a procedural dungeon. So I'm gonna pull that up real quick. Hey, whoop, that's loud. So this video shows the dungeon. So this dungeon here is procedurally generated. It has that little map that I just showed. It's just a series of rooms that I pre-made that connect to each other in a procedural way. Maybe as caves when you can mine resources. I think that the resources are going to be in finite spaces where they respawn at a given time. Is LDTK downloaded yet? Yeah, it is. I don't know if I'm going to like install it and use it on stream, but maybe I will. Will your game have a post game? I'm not thinking that far ahead. I would like to. Something like a post game. That's what I mean. Is like a post game that includes procedural content makes the most sense. But at the moment, like that's too far away for me to kind of think about. Like Isaac, yeah, I love Binding of Isaac. Binding of Isaac has been a really big motivator in terms of finding enemy designs, because Isaac has a ton of enemies that are really simple, and that's the thing, is that they're very simple enemies, but the way that they attack and their movement is it's unique and cool. I think that there's a lot of ideas that you can glean from that. Glad to know that you like Switch physical releases too. I'm sure that indie-friendly developers like East Asia Soft and will gladly publish a game physically. I bet they would, and that's something I could think about in the future, but it just depends on how the performance goes. Oh, your animation is so good while remaining relatively simple. So super impressive. Thank you. Thank you. So a lot of the animation is done by me. I'd say most of the animation is done by me, but some of the some of the like commissioned sprites, they do the animations, or they come from a open source pack that has a pre-made animation, but I do a lot of it myself. Legend of Zelda or Pokemon Red Fire. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Not having procedural generation is good for speedrunners. That's something that I'm thinking about exactly. Is I want the core game to be predictable, and I like procedural dungeons, but I don't think it fits into the main game. It's like if The Legend of Zelda had a procedural dungeon in it, I think that would be fun, but not in the main game. I like, if Zelda had a post-game procedural dungeon that you could play like repeatedly, I think that would be a ton of fun. Or like in Breath of the Wild, they had a DLC where you start with nothing and you have to go through a big series of challenges. I love that. Very, very, very cool. And I think something like that in the post-game would work. And that's why it works well in Zelda's post-game in Breath of the Wild. But in the main game, I don't really care for procedural generation, because I'd rather just craft good levels. And that's actually the reason why I switched away from procedural generation, is that I would watch myself play through these dungeons, and I would repeatedly find situations where it's like, yeah, this layout's good, but the layout would have been better if this, and this. And then I reached the point where you better handcrafting these dungeons, then let's just handcraft the dungeons. I don't really need to rely on procedural generation if I can just make it better myself. Like Bloodborne's Chalice dungeons. I actually don't know what that is. I haven't played Bloodborne. I really need to, but I haven't played Bloodborne because I'm waiting for it to release in a way that I can play it at 60 FPS. So, anyone that's familiar with this, am I right where you can only play Bloodborne on PS4 and it's at 30 FPS? If that's the case, then I'm not playing Bloodborne, ever. I can't play 30 FPS games anymore. It just hurts. It hurts too much. But if they ever do release Bloodborne on like PC or on PS5 where it's 60 FPS, I will play it immediately. Because everyone loves Bloodborne. I've never heard someone that played Bloodborne and they said, yeah, it sucks. I've never heard someone say that. They always say it's like the best thing ever. And I would love to be a part of that, but also it's just too painful to play at 30 FPS. I don't really want to do that. It's the same with Thousand Year Door remake. That game looks beautiful. It looks so nice. Why does it run at 30 FPS? That's insanely stupid when the original runs at 60. Man, it's unbelievable how ridiculous that is. Bloodborne's on PS5, yeah, but I don't think it runs at 60 FPS is the problem. I think it runs at 30. I think it's capped. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong about that, then please tell me, because I would love to play it. But I don't think that there's a way for me to play it at 60 FPS at the moment. Procedural gen needs not to be repetitive. You need an ungodly amount of unique rooms for it to feel fresh, or a very good generation algo. And I agree with that. This like version that I was showing off just a second ago, it was simple. There was probably like a dozen room types, and you would see repetitions, and it wasn't particularly interesting. And if I would have stuck with that, like today, it would probably be way better, where I would have a ton of different rooms, a lot of variety in the dungeons, and that would be a lot of fun. But I think that handcrafting the dungeons in the world is part of what makes this game good. And you'll see that once the new version comes out, 0.4, is that the biggest emphasis I've been putting in the last few months is level design. And I should say world design, because it's not exactly levels, it's how the maps interact and intersect with each other. The whole game is now a grid setup like the original Legend of Zelda, and the maps are cleverly designed to intersect and create shortcuts and unlock secrets and find places. It's like the world itself is a puzzle, and finding ways to navigate, finding ways into the new rooms is the trick to like navigating the game. I think that's a lot of fun. And I don't really think games focus on that very much. Like Dark Souls 1 focused on that a lot. That game's world is so interconnected, and that's what makes it timeless. That game's design is so good. Unlike something like Dark Souls 2, where it's not interconnected. In fact, it breaks itself. It breaks the immersion almost in the way that it's not interconnected. Is your game a Metroidvania? It depends on what your definition is, because you could say that any game with blocked paths that you return to with upgrades to navigate them, you could say that that's a Metroidvania. Like, you could say that a Zelda game is a Metroidvania because, like, you can't cross the gap unless you have the hook shot. So you have to go get the hook shot, and now you unlock that path. But Metroidvania kind of implies that it's a platformer, and I like, my game's not a platformer. Like, Hollow Knight is certainly a Metroidvania, but it fits that genre better because it's being it's a platformer, you know. So I wouldn't consider my game a Metroidvania just for that reason. I always say Zelda-like or Souls-like. The combat is very Souls-like, but the world design is kind of Zelda-like. Defective said, gotta go later. Thanks for stopping in, I appreciate it. And if you like a zone, it's always cool to visit it every time you start a new game. Yeah, I agree with that too. Bloodborne is made with RPG Maker, that's why the PS5 can't handle more than 30 FPS. I don't know if it's made with RPG Maker, that'd be kind of funny. If RPG Maker reaches the point where it can make games as good as Bloodborne, I think that's it. I think that we're done if that happens. Drink water before you go, man. Thank you, appreciate that. And yeah, we got a couple more minutes of stream if anyone has any last minute questions. I always stop at 10:30 my time. So I was working on this level yesterday. It's so dark in here. I'm gonna see if I can turn the darkness down a bit. Yeah, this is better. I think I'm gonna make this underground area less dark. But also, like, part of the gimmick is torches. So, like, you have the torch, and you can use the torch to, like, get through these areas. And the darkness kind of adds to that. But maybe it would look better if I just turn the darkness down. I consider Metroidvania any game if you can't, or sorry, if you see path but you can't go there and you take another path and you unlock some gimmick to unlock the locked path. And yeah, I can see that being a definition. Personally, I don't really describe non-platformers as Metroidvanias, but like you could say like Batman Arkham Asylum is a Metroidvania. I've heard people say that before, because you unlock new abilities and that allows you to backtrack a little bit and go into new areas with those new abilities. And that's what my game is like too. You unlock new abilities, you unlock new weapons, and that allows you to navigate areas in a different way. So yeah, I'd almost rather the torch be darker and I'd almost rather the dark be darker and the torch be brighter. Yeah, you know what? I agree with that. So I think my problem with my lighting system is that there's no brightness, there's just a lack of darkness. So when like right now, the torch does not look bright at all. But that's because I have the darkness turned down. But if I turn the darkness back up, it like reverse makes the torch look brighter. Well, actually no, it still looks really dark. I think there must be a way for me to make the torch brighter. I think if I just make the what is it, the radius bigger, the light factor, let's change this to 4. So this should be twice as big. And if I get myself a torch, and then we go down to underground. Yeah, all it really did was just kind of make the whole radius bigger, which is fine. That is kind of what I want. Yeah, I think keeping it bigger makes more sense. Have you played around with a dense fog system further? Not exactly. So a dense fog system kind of implies that you could interact with the fog. Like in a 3D game, when you walk through the fog, it kind of like spreads apart. I'm not going to do something like that. The only fog I'm going to do is the fog that you can kind of see on screen right now. Or it's subtle. It's subtle, but you can see it when I squish it down. So this texture here on the side, it's a fog texture. And it's overlaying the whole screen. It's really subtle. It's really subtle, but it is overlaying the whole screen. If I zoom in really far, if you look really close right on the player, you can see that fog texture slowly creeping over. And that's sort of the fog that I'm doing in this game. It's not interactable though, and I don't think it needs to be. It's just too subtle. But that about reaches the end of the stream. We are at 10:30 my time, which is when the restaurant's open, and I am hungry. So I'm going to call it for today. Thank you so much for joining. It was a really good turnout, both on Twitch and on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for the raiders, and thanks to everyone who joined in. It was a really good stream. Thanks to, we got Moonshire, Pankakeo. Have you played around with Dense? Oh yeah, you're the one that asked that. We got Prosto, we got Allfather, Jaggy Man. Thank you again so much for being here, and I will be back again next week for yet another Moonshire Monday. Thanks everyone. Bye.